This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
The biggest icon in podcasting.
Welcome in, everyone, to this week's edition of the DocNJock Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host, Adam the Jock Strozinski. On today's show, WWE scaling back, a nightmare rules them all, and a favorite tag team headed to WWE soon. Got the intel on all of that. Of course, we're going to take a look at WWE Now on USA, as well as AEW's All Out, as well as what took place this week in the world of AEW. Help me break it all down, sort it all out, hit it with a steel chair, and drop the elbow off the top of the cage. He's the one. He's the only. He is the Doc, John Macaroon. What's up, cuz?
Cuz I'm so excited to talk about wrestling this week. And before we get into the facts and the nitty-gritty of what happened, even in the world of sports, WWE is permeating all over. If you saw, Shannon Sharp got freaky on Instagram Live, but who else went viral along with Shannon and his freaky ways? R-Truth is in there going, what's going on in here? Is this something special going on? And his commentary, I thought at first it was fake. My first reaction was, there is no way R-Truth is live commenting on this man's sex tape, audio version. And no, it was real. I think everybody was really laughing and having a good time with it. Crazy story, but R-Truth is truly funny, and he kind of provides that comic relief of life that sometimes you need. And I just think that, man, what a career that he's had. And he's just funny in the manner in which he has this irreverent style that makes everybody laugh, and it sets the tone. So, cuz the lesson of the day, really outside of wrestling, is if you're going to get freaky, do not go on Instagram Live and put the phone in the other room if you're not going to tape it. You know what I mean?
Do you think his Shannon Sharp's explanation was accurate? Because at first he came out and he was like, I was hacked. It was this, it was that. And then he walked it back. And basically he's like, I just don't know how to use technology. I don't buy that at all. I don't buy it at all. And the fact that ESPN isn't disciplining him at all is bonkers to me. Yeah. Absolutely crazy. It's like the inmates are running the prison over there at ESPN.
It's a wild story. Look, man, I don't know. You get more clout. Obviously, he had 200,000 viewers on the next broadcast of his episodes. So it's look, no press is bad press. It's clear. That's the way, and even bad press is good press for people. So it's unbelievable that he, would actually have that happen to him. But it's 2024. It's not that big a deal. I mean, I think that the one thing, though, that kind of leads everyone to kind of be suspicious is it kind of ends the narrative that people were talking about his sexuality. So it wasn't a bad thing for him now that he's not going to be disciplined. But I just think that in 2024,
I didn't even hear about that.
Oh, yeah, Antonio Brown, man. He's if you type in Antonio Brown rips Shannon Sharp.
Oh, well, Antonio Brown has beef with Shannon Sharp. That's why.
Yeah, but
those guys go back and forth. And Antonio Brown's a loose cannon on the internet anyways.
Yeah, and he's also highlighted the dress, the attire, and things like that. So there were some crazy things. But R-Truth, man, he made it funny, lightened the mood a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's 2024. I mean, sex tapes aren't even that shocking anymore, other than to say, oh, my God, I can't believe this guy, let that audio out. It's just a bad mistake. It's crazy to think that someone would actually let that happen. But it's true. We all know somebody that's not tech savvy. We're in a fantasy league, and we can't get the older guys to log on properly without having to go, okay, push this button. Okay, no, the join button, not the end button. Join. So I get it.
Bro, that legit happened at the draft.
Yeah, I joined.
It was with my brother-in-law.
Join, damn it, join. And you're just like, this is not that hard. But to do that, I mean, you always got to know where your phone is. So it's just a wild story. It was funny, though.
It is.
If you need a laugh, if you're down, you just check out the stories that came from it. Everybody was clowning him. And it was somebody made a mistake, and he's the butt of everybody's joke this week.
Yeah, R-Truth has a fantastic sense of humor. Even when he's not in the ring, when he's in the ring, it's great. The wrestling humor is great. But when he's out of the ring and he's doing stuff on his Instagram or he's doing stuff on any one of his social medias, he is fantastic. He's a great follow. If you get a chance, go follow R-Truth. I think the big news coming out of WWE was earlier this week, and it was with WWE going to 2-hour Monday Night Raws starting August 7th of this year. And it's going to run until the end of December when WWE's Monday Night Raw goes over to Netflix. So while they're on USA starting August 7th, it'll be back to 2-hour Raws. We haven't had 2-hour Raws in 20-some years at least? I want to kind of get your gauge, because this is something that you and I have for a long time, and not just us, but the internet wrestling community has opined for this for a long time, that they want Raw to go back to 2 hours. 3 hours is just too much, especially when you were getting third hours where there was a whole lot of nothing really going on. You were staying up for that last hour, forcing yourself to go into work the next day, dragging because you were staying up to watch that last hour of Monday Night Raw, and you really got no bang for your buck. 2-hour Raws, I feel like they're going to be a little bit faster paced. I feel like they're going to have to try to condense everything and get it in, because I feel like Monday Night Raw right now, it's operating at a really good pace. Like, the show itself is paced out well. You're getting a lot of good action. You're getting a lot of good story building. I think the way it is now is fine, but 2-hour Monday Night Raws is going to be the streamlined version. I think it'll be interesting, and I think it could be great. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think where people reacted is like, it just goes to show you how good a job Triple H did, because people are clamoring for that third hour. It never really, for the last month or so, hasn't.
It was never like that.
Yeah, it hasn't been boring. So I'm excited to see when it happens. Look, Triple H has put together a solid creative team. People are intrigued by the storylines, and I think even now, for a time period, 2-hour Raws are going to be great because it's condensed, one less hour of paying attention, and I just think that it's going to force a lot more people to be over in order to get their stuff on the show. So I'm excited to see it. I'm curious as to how the ratings will shake out, and it's been a long time since Raw was 2 hours, man. I'm excited to see it.
Yeah, that's for sure. It's going to be an interesting little run here. About 2.5 months there. Now, when they go to Netflix, this is something else that has recently come out. When they go to Netflix, there's going to be no hard time. So they go over 2 hours, no problem. They go 3 hours, no problem. They go 3.5 hours, no problem. They go 2 hours, 45 minutes, no problem. They basically get all the leeway with time for the episodes as they want. So when they move to Netflix, no time constraints, and there will be ads and commercials. What are your thoughts on that? The programming is going to basically be allowed to fill whatever it is that they want to fill. So when you have moments where Liv Morgan kisses Dominic Mysterio and USA Network is already off, or Fox Network is already off television, and you miss it and you got to go to WWE's Twitter platform to see that video, you won't have to do that anymore. You're going to be able to get those final minutes of a Monday Night Raw on Netflix. Now, there will be ads. This is something that Netflix currently doesn't have, are the ads. So you will have to deal with that, but it's something that the streaming service is introducing, and WWE is kind of the pilot show for this. What do you think that is going to be like? Are you in favor of the non-time constraints and the ads, or would you prefer it to be a little bit more structured without the ads?
No, I think that commercials also, as long as they're not like 5 minutes long, I just do think that most important in any wrestling show is when. Like, if you have a great main event match and you just start it, you go to commercial, that sucks. Like, you kind of got to have at least the credit for the main event to be kind of commercial free or limited by commercials or picture in picture. But I do think that, look, we got to be honest here. If there's, people have short attention spans. I don't like hour no commercials of wrestling. I think half an hour is just perfect. And I just think sometimes you got to give the audience a break to get up, check their phone. When there's a women's match that nobody cares about, you can throw a commercial in there. But in my opinion, commercials, you got to have them. That's how people get paid. We're kind of used to it now. I just think the sweet spot is, because I'm definitely one of those people with a DVR. I know exactly how many times to push the button now, and it's usually on most TVs, when you hit next and skip, it goes ahead 30 seconds. So I'm aware to do it 6 times, boom, 3 minutes on most shows, 3.5 on most sports shows, and you're there. So I think that's a good sweet spot. 3 minutes, give you a little break. You can walk around a little bit, grab something, come back down, and get back to the action. But I look, it's a business, and WWE's got to capitalize. But I love the fact that there's flexibility. And I love the fact that if a crowd is going apeshit, then they can just kind of say, hey, keep it going. And Triple H can be the producer that he is, and he can enjoy a match. If Cody Rhodes or if Seth Rollins is having a great promo and the crowd's going apeshit with it, why cut it off? Let them keep going and see what kind of entertainment can be produced. And I think that's and that's why I think you and I gravitated toward podcasting was we didn't have no hard outs. Like if we were ripping on each other or telling jokes, we didn't have to go, okay, let's go now to a commercial to Big Boy or anything like that, or cut off an interview because we were up against the clock. There was no fucking clock. We're the clock. And I think that's where we love the ability to have some freedom to say, hey, if we want to just start talking about our truth and porn, fuck it, let's just start talking about our truth and porn. You know what I mean? We don't have to run it by anybody. So I think when you have creative freedom, it just makes it gravitating. And I just think that a guy like Triple H, who understands the business now left and right, all the experience, and the team that he put together, it's going to be great. It's just going to be great. And we didn't even say, I think everybody's talking that the first episode of Netflix is going to feature John Cena. It's going to set the tone for his year. So it's going to be fucking awesome.
Yeah, when it goes to Netflix, it should be really, really good. It's going to be interesting, that's for sure. And I'm all aboard to kind of see where WWE takes this. Again, they're kind of the pilot programming right now. So Netflix is kind of wading into some interesting waters. We'll see what happens when everything kind of takes place and when it goes live. But that's not going to be for a little bit longer. Something that's much sooner is this Hell in a Cell stipulation for CM Punk and Drew McIntyre. This is going to take place at Bad Blood. This will be the third installment between these two guys. Do you like Hell in a Cell as a stipulation for the third version of CM Punk taking on Drew McIntyre?
Hell yeah. It's going to be violent and aggressive. It's going to be effing crazy. And do you think CM Punk tries a high spot? Do you think he does what Cody Rhodes did on SmackDown? Probably not. I mean, that's probably the safest. A crossbody is pretty sweet. Or a frog splash. Fuck it. Drew's on a table. Maybe a leg splash is probably the easiest where you just throw your leg out. But hell, maybe Drew will do one. You know, it'll be crazy to see. Do you see them both climbing the cage and falling off? What the fuck's gonna happen? That's the crazy part about it. Does CM Punk bring a friend over to come into the cage? Some crazy shit. Does Drew have friends? I'm excited to see it all the way around. It'll be the culmination. Because the big question is who goes over. I think both equally need to go over. So it's crazy to me, but in the end, I know
that's good storytelling right there. When both these guys, you can make a case for both of them needing this win. That draws you in, and it makes it interesting.
They both do. I think both would probably be even okay if the other went over because of how great the feud was. But I think for business, you probably would say CM Punk goes over, and then you can probably legitimately get him into a feud with Gunther. It would be more legitimate because of how good of respect that Drew McIntyre has. But at the same token, I think Drew would also be elevated with an opportunity as well. But I just think for business, you need a face now, someone that's popular, and you got to find a way to get CM Punk even more over than he is. He's popular, and you look, I mean, he's somebody that it's just tough because even if he does beat Drew, there is an argument to be made that is he really the best guy next to fight Gunther? And maybe not, because I think people are kind of pushing toward Jey Uso, but he's kind of in a different boat now, looking at the IC title. So I'm curious to see how it's all going to shake out, and that's the best part is you can make arguments for a variety of things, but we all have to sit back and wait to see how it shakes out.
Yeah, and the thing I like about this is it has slowly ratcheted up as far as the violence and intensity has gone. You go back to the first match, yeah, it was good. It was interesting. You had Seth Rollins as a special guest referee. And then from there, you get into that strap match. So now you just kind of turn that dial a little bit. And now we're going to Hell in a Cell. So now we've turned that dial 2 clicks to the right. Now we're turning this dial 5 clicks to the right. This should culminate in a really, really good match. The hope is, this is coming from a guy who's not a huge fan of CM Punk. CM Punk comes out of this okay, doesn't get injured. It always seems to be a concern or a big concern inside matches like this. But I think the way you laid it out is pretty spot on. CM Punk gets the win. CM Punk can then go on to face Gunther, and that seems to make a little bit more sense as far as storytelling. Where Drew McIntyre goes from this, I'm not quite sure yet, but that's how I would see you moving CM Punk on after this feud. So Bad Blood is really shaping up to be a very interesting pay-per-view. Looks to be a lot of fun. And another thing that we just got added to that came on Friday night. Roman Reigns returns to help Cody Rhodes after a steel cage match. Cody beats Solo Sikoa, and the Bloodline then climbed the cage to get in and start attacking Cody Rhodes. This ends up bringing out Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns comes in, and him and Cody clear house. This leads to a tag team match between Solo and Jacob Fatu taking on Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes. So I think the big question is, we haven't really seen a whole lot of Roman Reigns. We have seen Roman and Cody kind of ships in the night almost, passing each other. And Roman this is the second time Roman's come out and kind of saved Cody. Do you like how we got here? Do you like the sparsely sprinkled in Roman Reigns and Roman kind of being the safety buoy for Cody as he's just getting annihilated by the Bloodline? Do you think this works for the storytelling?
Hell yeah, because now there's a little bit of an intrigue. Does Roman ever turn on Cody? Is this all a ruse? What happens? What's going to happen? It's just going to be great. It's going to be spectacular. And look, man, when you have somebody now like Roman Reigns who's an attraction, every time he comes out of the crowd, comes out from behind the curtains there, from Gorilla, I'm just excited. I'm like, oh man, this is great. You knew there was going to be a special pop for the first episode on USA on USA, so I was excited. I thought Triple H coming out is always great. Man, I thought SmackDown was really special. I thought it was really good, flowed really well. To have a great segment with a great match to start it off was epic, and I just thought that Cody Rhodes taking the high spot was sweet. Solo in the match, and then the Bloodline, and then look. All you can do in wrestling is create moments. When Jacob Fatu stands across from Roman, you're just like, oh, hell yeah, this is why you watch this shit. And it was great to see. And there's money to be made. The teasing, it's just like basically when you know you're watching a great artist do his thing, like, man, it's just let the experts cook. And that's what they did. And it's great. I think it's perfectly timed for a tag match. And there'll be a lot of intrigue. The Bad Blood is over. Their story is still the Bloodline is very over. And at Bad Blood, there will be some great matches and opportunities to kind of see where the next steps are in these feuds.
How do you think we should book this? Because this is one of those things where you could have, like you brought up, Roman could turn on Cody in this. Solo and Jacob Fatu could beat these guys, and it could really help solidify Solo. There is a report going around, and it was a little bit difficult to double confirm, but there is a report going around that Triple H has lost a little bit of faith in Solo, especially with Jacob Fatu being in the Bloodline. I think we can all agree Jacob Fatu, the big fear was Jacob Fatu outshining Solo, and I think he is the more interesting character out of the two. So there's a couple different ways you could do this. Is this maybe where you introduce The Rock, and it was The Rock the whole time pulling the strings with Solo, and this is how we end up getting to what I'm assuming will be Survivor Series and War Games? How would you end up laying this out? Because this right here, I think this is the match that we have to get us to where we want to be, which sounds like it's Survivor Series and sounds like it's War Games.
Real fast, why would if it is true, why would Triple H lose faith in Solo? I do think that Solo needs more development, but you just let time come. I just maybe would disagree with that. I just think that maybe the way in which it would be said is they start to believe that more needs to be done in his character development, that they put him into that spot and they realize, okay, we got to do a little bit more to get heat. We got to basically stick his ass in the promo class and be like, you got to time it right, you got to deliver it right, and you got to talk to the DOC about getting your shit talking game all together because your shit talking game is stiff, it's boring, it's circa Doc 2014. We got to get it up to circa Doc 2023, where the shit talking game is on point and can be funny and can be irreverent and can be on time and a little bit more passionate. So I think that's where it is that they would say, you know what, we just got to do a little bit more cooking with Solo because it's there. He's a badass motherfucker. But I do think that it comes off weird based on where he's at in his development, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it's the promos. I think sometimes he's a little bit wooden, right? He's almost like a cardboard box with a microphone in the ring when he's delivering his promos. And at this point, you can't be that anymore. That was fine when you were the heavy for Roman Reigns. You could be that wooden cardboard box. You didn't need to say a whole lot. You just need to look mean. You now have to bring a little bit of personality. I think in the ring, I think he's fine, right? I mean, let's be honest. John Cena is one of my favorite wrestlers. John Cena had 5 moves of doom. That was it. So in the ring, he's not limited. He's got moves. He can do things. I think it's just he somehow has to be able to connect to the audience. And look, he does get heat, but the heat that he gets is what I don't think they want. What the fans are giving him is go away. We want Roman. And that's fine if that's mixed in. What they really want is we hate you. We want Roman back. Instead, it's you're Roman's. You're the Aldi version of Roman Reigns. Go away is what the heat that they're getting. So I think you're right. It is somehow refreshing that character and propping that up. And again, I don't really know if Triple H is that down on him because let's be honest here, right? Triple H was a guy who helped get him into NXT, helped bring him along in NXT. Triple H, if I remember correctly, was the guy who wrote the storyline for him to be introduced to the main roster. And then him and Paul Heyman and Roman Reigns have kind of built this story and have worked with him. I don't think at this moment in time, you might not be getting the necessary return on the investment that you originally wanted, but I don't think it's bad. I don't think he's upset with Solo. I think we need to tweak some stuff with Solo. Jacob Fatu's unreal, right? Now, Jacob Fatu really hasn't said a whole lot on a microphone, so it could be a lot of the same things, right? You put a microphone in Jacob Fatu's hands, and maybe he's a cardboard box. I don't think that'll be the case, but maybe, So Jacob Fatu right now just oozes this like psychotic charisma where Solo is, at this moment in time, he's been turned down. He's like on a simmer. When Solo first got in, that was one of the things all we talked about with Solo, those first couple weeks, months, with Solo being in the bloodline. We thought it was great. So we're in a bit of a transition period. But would you use this opportunity to introduce The Rock into this program so we can get to War Games with The Rock and this version of the bloodline versus what I think all of us are assuming is the original version of the bloodline minus Solo with Cody? Would you do that?
Oh my goodness. That's just special, man. Roman, Cody, Jey Uso, Jimmy Uso, Sami Zayn. My God. Yeah, why not? It's about that time. You know what that means? Because we are in September, so let's look ahead to the calendar. There is an event called Survivor Series. There's an event called War Games. And I think we're heading in that direction where you're going to have a badass match that everybody's going to love to see. And the debut probably will be of the next Fatu to come out and handle business. And it'll be crazy to see. So The Rock leading Solo and the crew will be spectacular. And it'll start the process of leading toward, I mean, you could see it. It'll lead toward maybe Rock and Roman probably this year at WrestleMania, and we'll get the match told the right way. And you can see it, and you could tell everybody. You could even tell everybody right now, WrestleMania is going to feature Rock and Roman, and we're all going to love to see how it gets there because it's going to be great. The stories, the way in which the entertainment's going to happen, the violence, it's just going to be special. So I think we're on the road to the next 6 months of WWE programming.
Wait, look, I thought both Monday Night Raw and I thought SmackDown were both incredible this week. I thought SmackDown did maybe a little bit better of a job. I thought SmackDown was very fast-paced. I thought we got some really good action, and things really helped push a ton of storylines forward. I really enjoyed both shows this week. Was there anything else that you really took out of Monday Night Raw or SmackDown? Anything big that you wanted to touch on before we transition into AEW? Because again, 2 jam-packed shows. Both did a great job with their season premieres. Both did a really good job of highlighting USA Network and that relationship they have with USA Network. I thought this week from WWE, very, very, very good.
Ooh, solid efforts. A lot of good stuff. Yeah, you always got to highlight it. I popped. Look, he's old, and it's always weird because you always see the clips of Bret Hart just slamming WWE and the Click and all that. But Bret Hart coming through the gorilla position just in Calgary. I don't care if he's limited in his mobility, if he has to ask where the hard camera, which I thought was kind of naturally funny. To see Bret Hart in the ring with Sami Zayn was kind of like a passing of the torch kind of moment, and it was just really awesome. It was fucking special. I rewatched it, and because I met Bret Hart, and it was really cool because he's got the fucking aura. It's fucking Bret Hart, and I don't care what he does. If he rips WWE, if he hates the company, he's got look. It's not. I don't think he hates the true people. He hated it was the age-old classic professional wrestler versus sports entertainer. And there's always going to be that little battle. It's kind of like the journalist versus the podcaster. The journalist is like, just tell the fucking story, asshole. And the podcaster's like, can you be a little bit more less boring, dumb fuck? And it's just always going to be that little bit of underlying tension where you have mutual respect. I know that Bret Hart respects Shawn Michaels and Triple H. But at the same token, Bret Hart is more like, dude, I wrestled for 20 years and didn't hurt anybody. You guys bring in a brute like Goldberg and he kills me. So there's always going to be that little beef between sports entertainers and professional wrestlers. But if you're talking professional wrestling, there's nobody in the world that was better than Bret Hart. And just to see him was fucking awesome. And Gunther is fucking hilarious. Dude, he dropped the line I thought of the night. He's like, Bret, I used to respect you, but I got to really be honest. My favorite wrestler was Goldberg. I thought that was fucking hilarious. Kudos to the writer to drop that in there. I just thought it was a special segment.
Yeah, that was well done. That was funny. Bret Hart, I love Bret Hart. Bret Hart was the Hart Foundation and the matches with Shawn Michaels and just everything about Bret Hart. Absolutely fantastic. You were kind of waiting when Gunther was laying that out and he was like, you're my second favorite wrestler. You were waiting for the Shawn Michaels line. That's what you were waiting for.
Yes.
Because it's the thing that's been delivered to Bret Hart time and time again. And instead, this was really cool because you got something different. It was something for smart fans. This is something WWE, this is kind of the change underneath Triple H, I think. They're playing to smart fans now. That's something that everybody loved about AEW. AEW did this thing where they played to smart fans, and they would drop little nuggets in there, and they would just kind of work things in there and like real life wrestling stuff. Like it wasn't just WWE things. WWE always kind of dumbed things down for the WWE universe. And I say that with finger quotes. But that was a little nugget. Like everybody knows that Bret Hart hates Bill Goldberg because he took his career from him. And they slipped that in there. And they kind of thought, you thought they were going to go right, and they hung a left. And I thought it was well done. It was perfectly executed. And I think you are starting to see stuff like this. And pay attention to it. As WWE evolves underneath Triple H, you're going to get more of that smart fan placating, that dropping these little nuggets in there, working little things in there. It's not all going to be about the WWE universe. I mean, you've already seen it with Michael Cole talking about other wrestling promotions and talking about what these guys have done in other places, bringing up the New Japans, bringing up the other company. Like that's been said before. So these things are all good signs. This is what we want as a wrestling community. We want these little like wink and nods towards other things because it's just not making you feel dumb. Like, oh man, all I can watch is WWE. No, like, we watch everything. So this acknowledges what you're watching, which is great. So I think it's being really, really well done. And kudos to Triple H. I don't know if you caught it at the end of SmackDown. He got executive producer credits on the screen. This is the first time ever in WWE history that a show is closed or a wrestling show itself is closed with producing credits. So pay attention to that going forward on Friday Night SmackDown. It'll probably be on Monday Night Raw as well. where Triple H gets his producing credits. So that is really cool and something different. So let's jump into this all-out pay-per-view. This took place last Saturday. This was one of the better pay-per-views AEW has done. I don't want to say best. This was really, really good. But this was one of the most violent pay-per-views AEW, I think, has ever done. And it's like horrific brutality. You had syringes used. You had suffocation used. You had, I'm assuming it was a gimmick chair that got exploded over a dude's head. This was an incredibly violent show. What did you think of AEW's All Out?
Yeah, it was crazy scary. Swerve, my God. Craziness all the way around in the match with Hangman Page. Look, I just thought 8 matches was perfect. I think that still too long to go over 4 hours with 8 matches, but thank gosh it wasn't 15 matches. My goodness. And I just thought that every match delivered, and it was really unbelievably well done. I just thought that each situation had everybody on the card had their moment. It was incredibly aggressive. But at the same token, it provided opportunities for people to get their shit in and to showcase why they're important on this card. And I just thought it was really well done, executed. And for a wrestling show, it's their brand, and I get it. So if you go into it judging it, you're not going to like it. But if you go into it saying, okay, if these performers are willing to do it for the fans, then you realized, my God, Adam Hangman Page and Swerve really delivered a match for the ages, and it was special to see. And then you can never go wrong with seeing Will Ospreay do his thing. So I thought the pay-per-view in and of itself was a pay-per-view. It was well delivered, and it was good enough to set up angles for the future, which I thought was exactly, that was the goal. That was my note was, okay, set up the stuff for the future. Did they do that? The answer was yes. That's why I gave it an A.
Yeah, I think that's the one thing that we sometimes struggle with AEW is they don't do enough to build for what's coming next. In this case, I think this pay-per-view did that, and you did it. You're working basically with 2 weeks. So really well done as far as utilizing this pay-per-view to get you to where you want to go. So pay-per-view starts off with MJF defeating Daniel Garcia. Now, he used a low blow. Originally, Daniel Garcia was supposed to go over in this match. He has not signed his AEW contract yet. Sounds like WWE has a lot of interest. So they did not want to give Garcia the win because he hasn't signed and re-upped with the company. But MJF ends up winning via cheating, but Daniel Garcia gets his revenge, and it appears that MJF is going to be written off television for a bit. Daniel Garcia went up to, I believe it was the second rope, and did a pile driver, kind of exacerbating that neck injury for MJF. So it's a way to keep Garcia looking strong if he does re-sign his contract and come back. But it's also a way to keep MJF getting the win and getting him off so he can be off television so he can go do a movie for a little bit. Then we had the Young Bucks defeating Wheeler Yuta and Claudio Castagnoli. This plays a part later on in the show, which I liked. This was just pretty much a straight match. There wasn't really anything fancy about this. It was what it was. The Bucks ended up defeating Yuta and Castagnoli. We then had Will Ospreay defeating Pac via pinfall to retain his international title. What did you think about this match? Look, Will Ospreay, absolutely fantastic. I think Pac is severely underrated. I think Pac is such a good wrestler. You have to remember, Pac was also a bit of an aerial assassin. When he was in NXT, when he was in WWE, and he was Neville, he did all kinds of crazy stuff. And Pac has absolutely zero problem going up to the top rope and throwing his body into harm's way and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. I thought this was a really, really good match. I thought these two guys played really well off of each other. What were your thoughts on this match?
Exactly. I just wrote chemistry, and I want more. I just think that these two guys wanted to showcase, hey, foreign wrestling is something that you can appreciate and love and respect, and I was all for it. I just thought, man, Pac, good to see. And he deserves it. And I just think that sometimes you lose sight of the fact that he was somebody that came over as a hotly anticipated performer, and he lived up to it. It was a great match.
And this is where you end up stealing the point in this and are calling the card. Chris Statlander, she ends up using a chain to submit and defeat Willow Nightingale. I thought that was a nice little usage, right? So the chain has been something that has been kind of worked into this storyline, and it's always kind of there. You usually have Stokely Hathaway trying to get Statlander a chain in matches so she can use it for the upper hand. And in this case, she used it to submit Nightingale. Look, the one thing I think they could have did differently here, right, is Statlander could have got the win. She could have used the chain. Nightingale could have been put to sleep. She could have passed out due to the pain instead of actually tapping. I think that would have kept Nightingale looking a little bit stronger, and I think it would have helped build towards whatever's coming next. What did you think about Statlander using the chain to submit Nightingale?
It was crazy, man. To see the women get violent was I didn't think that would happen. So I just thought that, look, the feud, I know some people will say should have ended, but I think that there's more there that can be tapped into. And both characters, I think, did the job of getting themselves a little bit more respect and eyeballs for the physicality they were willing to go to in this type of match. So, hell yeah, it was great. And I thought there might have been a chance this match disappointed, but I was far from wrong. I had to eat crow. This match delivered, and I liked it. And of course, I love the result.
Yeah, this was, again, really, really good card. This was a fantastic match. Might be some people's favorite match, you'd say. Next, we have Okada. He pinned Orange Cassidy and defeated Orange Cassidy, Mark Briscoe, and Takeshita to retain his Continental title. After that, we had Mercedes Moné defeating Shida to retain her TBS title. Again, this was a Mercedes Moné match that I just don't feel like it lived up to what she's getting paid. I don't feel like this was a great match. I thought it was good. Some of it felt a little bit clunky. To be honest with you, this was probably the worst match on the card. It was what it was. Next, we had Bryan Danielson defeat Jack Perry to retain his AEW championship. Now, this sets up a ton of storyline. So at a certain point after this match, you had the patriarchy come down. Christian Cage was looking to basically cash in and get his match against Bryan Danielson. There was a point in the ring where he had Luchasaurus and Jack Perry staring at each other. It's funny because both these guys used to be good guys in Jurassic Express, and now they're both heels. The crowd really kind of popped for Luchasaurus, or Killswitch as he's going by now. Anyways, they are cut off by the BCC. The Blackpool Combat Club basically turned them away. They end up leaving. And what happens is everybody gets in the ring, and they go to celebrate with Bryan Danielson. You have Claudio Castagnoli hit Bryan Danielson with an uppercut and knock him to the ground, and he's a little bit dazed. You had Pac at the same time hugging Wheeler Yuta and pulling him away. It was really nicely done. He went in for an embrace, for a hug, and then once they started laying into Bryan Danielson, Yuta was being restrained by Pac. I thought this was really, really well done. And Moxley ends up taking a plastic bag out and starts to suffocate Bryan Danielson. And AEW has come out and they're like, we're not going to show the footage anymore. It's too extreme. It's too this. It's too that. What did you think of this segment? Because this was something that, one, not expecting. Two, I can't tell you the last time I seen a suffocation spot in a wrestling match. Like, you see people get choked with things, but I've never seen somebody put a plastic bag over a dude's head and try to suffocate them. I think it might have been ECW, might have been the last time I seen something like that. And like the original ECW, not WWE's version of ECW. Was this too extreme? Because I thought this was graphic. I thought this was over the top. I thought this was a lot. But I think it works. And I think it works for what we're getting with Jon Moxley.
Exactly. Couldn't have said it better myself. Would I have done it that way? No. But in the end, it's violence, and I think it's perfect. BCC moving forward without Danielson, I think, is great. And look, man, I just think that there's intrigue in what's going to happen next, and I do think that Danielson sometimes getting the ass, getting whooped a little bit kind of suits him well. It's like, okay, let's another challenge, another hurdle for Bryan Danielson. He's always met him, and he's always come out on top. He's always kind of earned the respect of others. And I do think that, look, Jon Moxley, needs to up the aggression a little bit. That's kind of what he's known for. So it did work. And look, there probably was some gimmick there to that bag. Look, these guys are not going to have, it looked graphic, but I do think there probably was some gimmick to that, the way in which they did it. It was just well done because we legit were scared as fuck to see him in that bag. But it was crazy to see. It was wild. But it fit perfectly, especially with, the way in which, Christian came down and then Moxley comes out. And then it was just absolutely positively well done. And I just thought that for a pay-per-view that went that long, there were moments where you could have realistically gotten some breaks and come back. But at the same token, the main event delivered. That's all you can ask for, is the main event delivers, good match, and Perry comes out. Jack Perry comes out of the pay-per-view looking good. Danielson, you're more intrigued by. I think that you're crazy now to dismiss Jon Moxley and his crew. So don't do that. Pay attention. I think a lot of people were saying, hey, knocking AEW for their lack of storytelling. Now a lot more people have stories that are interesting. More people want to know about what's going on with Swerve and what's going to happen next with Hangman Page. Lots of intrigue going on with everything going on. And we haven't even talked about, Ricochet and maybe even some new guys coming in. So lots of good shit going to happen for the foreseeable future with AEW.
Yeah, and then you fast forward to Wednesday on Dynamite. You basically had Jon Moxley's explanation. And basically it was him and Danielson were looking to build something. And Danielson's just too nice of a guy. He's just too good of a person. And there has to be a bit of a harder edge is what he wants. He wants a harder line drawn in the sand. And it kind of shows this more psychotic leader version of Jon Moxley. I'm super into it. I feel like he does this role so well. This guy who walks this line of being unhinged, but in control and knowing what he's doing. I think it works so well for him. Are you into this new character of Jon Moxley?
Oh, yeah. It's just a natural extension of what he is. I think that there's so much you can play off of. I just think that it's the perfect character. Aggressive, badass, be scared of him and his group. What are you willing to do? And some unpredictability in terms of that, where we think it's X, but he could go beyond that, of course. And I just think that it's time to kind of culminate that with a title run or some violence and some NWO style action, baby. I think Bryan Danielson needs to be flying off of some RV trucks or flying off some, we haven't seen for a while. I don't think we've seen the behind the curtain catering destruction. You have Bryan Danielson laughing it up with the boys, and he's eating chicken tenders, and all of a sudden he gets super kicked by Claudio, and he gets power bombed through the hot dog stand and or the cookies or the desserts. And I just think a nice catering ass whooping it would be funny, as violent, but also kind of funny too, because we're so used to seeing it in WWE. Yeah,
it's something that AEW doesn't necessarily do. They will fight out in the concourse, and there will be popcorn that'll sometimes be used, but generally you do not get the fights in catering. So this match ends, and this was one of those things that left everybody kind of gasping, literally gasping for air, like Bryan Danielson was. We then move into Hangman Page and Swerve Strickland's match, and Page ends up defeating Strickland. This match had so much gratuitous violence in it. It was unreal. The match ends, though, with Hangman Page grabbing a syringe from someplace, putting it into Swerve's mouth and drugging him, and then taking a chair, and he broke a steel chair over this man's head. Now, this obviously done to write Swerve Strickland off for a while. I'm not sure if Swerve is dealing with an injury or if he just needs some time to go work on another project. I'm not 100% sure. It now makes sense for the title loss. If you look at these two matches back to back, this makes sense for what took place 2 weeks ago when he dropped the title to Danielson. Dropping the title to Danielson now gives Moxley a bit of a target to aim at as he is the champion, and it allows Swerve to get defeated by Hangman Page to go on to do whatever he's got to do. So allows him a little bit of time away now. On Dynamite, there was an interview with Hangman Page, and he was like, look, if Swerve had, I think it was something like 10,000 homes. He was like, I'd burn 10,000 homes to ash. He's like, I don't care. So we're basically setting it up that these two guys will be blood feud enemies for the rest of their careers. I thought it was well done. This new version of Hangman Page, slightly unhinged, but driving towards destroying Swerve, is a bit of an interesting character. What did you think of this match? And did this match cross a line as well?
All over the place. It was violent. Oh my God. People were definitely concerned about the chair shot, but it was gimmicked. It was clear. I mean, the chair bent. And I do think that they are taking a little bit more caution with their violence. You want these performers to be around, especially if you're going to invest, the numbers that are reported for Swerve, you better protect the man. So I just think that it was actually good, and thinking back on it, we both thought that Swerve was going to win. But actually, you know what? Swerve is probably at the spot he's at, and he probably wasn't going to go that much higher at the moment. Hangman Page really got himself over as a bad motherfucker. And I just thought that, you know what? Let's not forget about Hangman, because the dude's legit, and he probably needed it more than Swerve when you really look at the big picture. And I just thought that, my God, it was crazy, to have him look that way.
So it was the syringe into Swerve's jaw,
Yep.
And then it was the smash of the chair, and basically he was dead. So the referee called for the match.
Yeah, and then the winner was Hangman Page.
Was Hangman.
Yes, okay,
Yes.
That's what I had as my notes. I just keep thinking that, when I replay in my head the chair getting over, it was kind of like, the finish didn't matter. It was just like, oh my God, is he okay? Or it just went to the violence as opposed to the result. But yeah, Hangman Page deserved to in my mind, deserved to look like that coming out of that match. And look, it was crazy, because I think the way I wrote it was kind of a finish that was a little bit different, that kind of confused some people at first. But I just think when you see the chair shot, oh my God, it was, like I said, it was. To answer your question, I do not think it was too violent for the context of that match. That was the goal.
Yeah, I think as over the top as it was, and as gratuitously violent as it was, for these two guys, I think you needed this. I think you had to have this. I don't think we necessarily needed the syringe in the mouth. I think that was a little campy and was a little over the top. But the way it ended, with the chair breaking over Swerve's head and the match getting called because Swerve couldn't answer the bell, I think this worked out perfectly for these guys. I thought this was really well done. And this is how you close your pay-per-view. This is how it goes off the air. And it leaves you with wanting to know what's the fallout. Leaves you with wanting to come back for AEW Dynamite on Wednesday. It leaves you for wanting to tune into both Rampage and Collision as well. So it leaves you in the right spot where you want more. And I thought it was really well done. Again, I thought this was a really good pay-per-view. On the pay-per-view, you end up taking the point because of the Statlander match. You cut my lead from 5 down to 4. It's now 9-5, so you're nipping away. This leads us to a couple of things that took place on Dynamite. And some of this is a little bit herky-jerky, and I want to get your reaction. Moxley's been calling out Darby Allin for weeks now. We have this whole thing that takes place on Saturday at the pay-per-view with Bryan Danielson. Moxley goes to the ring and calls out Darby Allin. Darby Allin's, they cut back and he's skating into the arena. Later on, Darby Allin comes out. They have this back and forth, and Moxley comes through, basically shows, I got no weapons. I'm just here to talk. And they get in the ring, and basically Moxley demands that Darby Allin give him his title opportunity shot at Bryan Danielson so he can take the title off Bryan Danielson. And he keeps saying, I can't explain it to you now. I don't have time. Basically, like, time is of the essence. I need this from you, which I thought was a nice little twist, nice little thing that if you're paying attention, you'll pick it up. But I don't know necessarily why time is of the essence, because this is like 2 weeks away-ish. So, like, I don't know what we're doing here. But you were supposed to have Darby Allin taking on Bryan Danielson in 2 weeks, and now you're not. Now you're getting Darby Allin and Jon Moxley, and they're basically fighting over the chance for this number one contendership for Bryan Danielson's title. Later on in the programming, so that was weird. Later on in the programming, Nigel McGuinness comes out, and he is back. and he is cleared to wrestle. And I don't know if you're a big fan of Nigel McGuinness or not, but Nigel McGuinness and Bryan Danielson have a lot of history. If you're able to watch anything from ROH, or if you can go to YouTube and type in Nigel McGuinness, Bryan Danielson, they had some bangers of matches. And Nigel McGuinness was a guy who you always hoped would get that WWE run, was always that guy who you felt could be one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. Said it was Bryan Danielson. This is why these two guys have such an interesting paralleled history. He's been cleared. He will now take on Bryan Danielson in 2 weeks if Danielson is cleared. So I'm excited for that match. I'm not necessarily excited about how Darby Allin's opportunity got taken away and now he's facing Jon Moxley. I think that match will be interesting. I don't necessarily understand how we did this or why we did this. And again, I felt like it was a little bit herky-jerky. Do you have any thoughts on Darby Allin and Jon Moxley having their interaction and basically Jon Moxley taking away Darby Allin's opportunity to face Bryan Danielson in 2 weeks, only for Nigel McGuinness to slide in and be cleared and take on Bryan Danielson at the same event in 2 weeks?
It's just stuff people want to see. I think it's great because Darby Allin will get the rub with working with Jon Moxley. Look, Darby Allin is not main eventer just yet. You got to do more. I mean, look, he worked with Sting. He's just still in that position in his character where he's the guy that takes the high risks. So I'm not terribly disappointed that he's not going to be fighting for the title. I think that fighting with Moxley is going to be great. And clearly you're going to have it where Moxley's going to win and get to that nice match. I think it's a great feud moving forward. It's a money feud. And Nigel McGuinness coming back is sweet. It's nostalgia, and that's where part of where the solid part of having Tony Khan own this company is that if there's an opportunity to give somebody an opportunity to come back, he'll do that. Nigel McGuinness clearly having matchups with Bryan Danielson will get the smart marks out there and pay attention. So I thought it was, look.
This is him booking for the sickos.
Booking for the sickos. And look, he does it, so when he does actually execute it, you understand why. It was a little bit convoluted to get to all that, but clearly they worked toward it. And I'm interested to see it. And so that's all you can ask for is that, okay, they could have clearly gotten to it better, but at the same token, Jon Moxley's not waiting around for opportunities. He's going to take it.
Yeah, for sure. I think both matches are going to be good. And I think these are both matches that we want to see. Like you said, convoluted is the best way to describe how we got there. And that sometimes takes me out of the storytelling. But we're here. We'll have 2 banger matches in 2 weeks' time. It'll be great. We'll be talking about those in a couple of weeks. I want to get your thoughts about this Kyle Fletcher, Will Ospreay, Don Callis, Takeshita angle that we got going on. And this is for the tag team belt. So Will Ospreay, Kyle Fletcher, Don Callis earlier in the evening asks Will Ospreay for a favor, and that's to team with Kyle Fletcher for the tag team gauntlet match. The winner will be the number 1 contender for the Young Bucks tag titles. There's a bunch of teams that go in and are included in this. The whole time this is going on, Takeshita looks super irritated and super annoyed and kind of checked out, like, what the hell are we doing with this guy? In the end, Ospreay and Fletcher end up winning the match. A little bit of tag team work. It was a hidden blade into I don't know what type of pin it was, but it was a hidden blade into a pin by Kyle Fletcher. Really interesting work. I thought it was well done. I thought this was a really good match. It was a lot of fun to watch. I think the thing that is interesting is the Takeshita note that he looks annoyed, and it's Don Callis, so you can't ever really trust Don Callis. I am curious where this goes. And at one point, Don Callis did have some workings with both the Young Bucks. So I'm curious if you feel like this is a way to, 1, get Takeshita built back up, or 2, is this an angle to get into something with Will Ospreay? I'm just wondering where's your 51% at on this? Because I'm a little bit torn. I don't know. I feel like this angle should be used to build up Takeshita. I feel like this would be a prime opportunity because this is a guy who's done a ton of great work over in New Japan. At one point, he was one of the hotter guys in AEW, and they missed the boat on strapping the rocket to his back. Obviously, Will Ospreay is through the moon. I don't necessarily know if him and Kyle Fletcher need the tag belts. I don't know if we need to go that direction. I do like what I'm seeing out of Kyle Fletcher. I think he's progressing nicely, but I feel like this should be an opportunity to get over Takeshita. What are your thoughts?
Exactly. Couldn't have said it better myself. That's how I wrote it down. Look, man, anything you do with Will Ospreay is going to be intriguing, and you're starting to kind of get a sense that they're trying to figure out the best way to put him in matchups that are intriguing, but also help the other person who's going to lose. But to me, I think the biggest mission this year is to kind of elevate some more stars like Okada, like a Takeshita, like a Jack Perry to an even higher level, like a Darby Allin. So to your point, I just think that Takeshita's got to be featured and have opportunities to get over and have some more meaningful segments. And I do think that it's coming, and I hope they do go in that direction. But if they go in the direction of tag for, Will Ospreay, tag team wrestling, maybe also, sets up a feud where, someone turns on someone and all that kind of stuff. I don't know if they need to go that route, but look, I do think that moving forward, the sickos, the marks, they love the relationships that Will Ospreay has developed with, his groups and factions, and so it'll be intriguing to see where it goes. But to me, the highlight needs to be Takeshita.
All right, what was your show of the week? I want to give it to SmackDown. I thought SmackDown was absolutely fun this week. I loved it. Thought it was great.
Yeah, no doubt. SmackDown debut on USA. Look, to me, I only had one knock. I don't like the intro song. Doesn't hit. It doesn't match. Like, it just, to me, it doesn't, to me, it falls flat. I can see where it's a little bit more upbeat, hip-hop, I get it. I just didn't like it. I'm not a fan of the logo either, but to me, that's all extemporaneous. It's all extra nonsense. It's shit for us to debate. I'm not a fan. I like the old shit better. The S is, it's like when you just say, okay, hey, give us something really fancy and foo-foo, and that's what you get. To me, I don't need all that extra stuff. The set, B minus. So to me, the aesthetics part of it, I didn't like as much. But look, if you're going to put together a show like that, you can create any kind of nonsensical S you want.
All right, you ready for some news and notes?
Hit me with this week's professional wrestling news and notes.
WWE scaling back. At a recent Goldman Sachs Communacopia and Technology Conference, WWE announced that live events will continue to decrease in the number of appearances. TKO President Mark Shapiro noted that the company is looking to only host around 200 live events for the year 2025. This is down from around 250 they did this year and 300 they did the year prior. He said, we're cutting events at WWE. We're taking our low margin, marginally profitable events, untelevised events that Vince put in place to grow the brand, right? You're taking the shows on the road. We've got to go to every city we can get to grow the WWE brand. Well, the WWE brand, while it still has to grow, it is on fire right now. We don't need to carry these marginally profitable events. Andrew Schimmer, our CFO, and Nick Khan at WWE have been hands-on involved with cutting back those events, trimming those events. What was 300 events last year will roughly be 250 this year, and next year will be close to 200. So WWE dialing back the live events, which is something that we've talked about, and I feel like it's probably the best thing to do. Either that, or you just need to rotate guys to save their bodies. So this, I think, if you're a WWE wrestler, this is probably good news for you. More home time with the family. AEW doesn't even do live events. They do basically one maybe two events a week, depending on if they have a pay-per-view or not. All right, A Nightmare rules them all. On September 10th, the annual PWI 500 rankings was released. The list is a combination of kayfabe accomplishments and other impressive accolades. This year's list was topped by the current undisputed WWE champion, Cody Rhodes. The list looks like this. Cody Rhodes at 1, Swerve Strickland at 2, Will Ospreay at 3, Seth Rollins at 4, Tetsuya Naito at 5, Damian Priest at 6, MJF at 7, Jon Moxley at 8, Gunther at 9, and Mystico at 10. I want to get your thoughts. What did you think of this list, the top 10?
Great list. I thought that Cody Rhodes, really, when you look at the PWI Insider, a lot of people respect it. Look, I just think that the sky's the limit for that performer, and the year that he's had is going to be special moving forward. And look, PWI Insider, top list. It's definitely paid attention to. Would you have made any changes? Did they omit somebody that you felt should have made the list?
No, I thought this was really good. I thought it was interesting to see this blend of these top guys from both WWE and AEW. And then you would sprinkle in different guys from New Japan, like Naito, who I think is fantastic. And then you got Mystico from CMLL, which I didn't even think he'd get in the top 10, but he did. And I thought this interesting was well comprised. I thought this was really well done. All right. Favorite tag team is headed to WWE. And maybe soon, former TNA Wrestling World Tag Team Champions, the Motor City Machine Guns, are widely expected to be WWE bound. Details have recently emerged that Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin are set to sign with WWE, with it expected that they'll join NXT. A recent report noted that they could make their debut as early as October 1st when NXT premieres on the CW network. Dave Meltzer in the Wrestling Observer newsletter confirmed that the Motor City Machine Guns' arrival in WWE is imminent. So keep an eye out for a local product. Alex Shelley, Chris Sabin, they're from the Metro Detroit area, finally getting their WWE run. They will be starting in NXT. They're a fantastic tag team. They're absolutely awesome. So keep an eye out. Sounds like October 1st. They are loading up for that NXT premiere on CW. So if you are an NXT fan, you will want to check that out. Even if you're not, if you're just a WWE fan, you'll want to check that out. So pay attention. October 1st, NXT premieres on CW. And that's going to do it for this week's news and notes.
Make sure you follow Adam on Twitter at AdamRSTROZ. Follow the network at Detroit Podcast. Make sure if you've agreed or disagreed with anything that you've heard in the world of professional wrestling from the podcast or any tweets that you see, feel free, hit us up. The most interactive sports Twitter page in Detroit. We definitely respect and want to debate all opinions. If you feel like the pay-per-view at AEW missed a mark, if you feel like Danielson is capturing the title and holding it hostage as opposed to somebody else, let us know. We're definitely intrigued by opposing opinions, and we definitely love enjoying debate and banter regarding the world of professional wrestling. Make sure anywhere at all that you find and listen to your favorite audio content, we're everywhere. Just type in 3 words, Detroit Sports Podcast, and then hit like and subscribe, and our content will find you. Nothing more that you got to do. You sit back, let all the Lions content come to you, Doc and Jock, the wrestling podcast. If you're unfortunately a Michigan fan, you get a weekly Michigan podcast from somebody who's been a super fan forever. So even though I am a state grad, I'll bring to you guys, Adam and I will bring you the best content around, even though it may just irk me that somebody that would just dedicate their time to be a Michigan fan. My God. The ultimate heels in the world of college football. Thanks, cuz. That was a fun broadcast, a fun hour. I can't wait to fire it up next week, where I think, breaking news, there's no pay-per-view. We can actually talk about the shows and angles and the character development. We had like 3-week run there. That was crazy. But hey, wouldn't look, it's a popular time in the world of wrestling, and I can't wait to break down next all the happenings that take place this week with my guy Adam the Jock Strozinski. Thanks everybody. Our time has come to an end. Can't wait to fire it up next week on the latest episode of the Doc and Jock Wrestling Podcast.